the new Nissan Almera. I feel the need to tell you that this is the new Almera, well, for two reasons. Firstly, the previous generation Almera was a fairly bland, ordinary family budget car, contesting what is actually quite a tough segment. Its styling was unoffensive. This one is whatever that is. Secondly, you wouldn't really ever be prompted or asked to drive a Nissan Almera unless you're in fleet acquisition or a motoring journalist. So you'd be forgiven for thinking that it's probably absolutely awful. But you'd be wrong.
As the styling or lack thereof is likely to be a bone of contention for many, let's get that out of the way first. You often hear about form following function, and it would be hard to come up with a more accurate description of the Almera's design. Its shape is dictated by the need for space, which we'll get to in a moment, and aerodynamic efficiency, with Nissan claiming a CD figure of just 0.318. Still, you have to wonder, if you're going to design a car anyway, why not just make it pretty, or at least mildly attractive?
So it's also not exactly a very stylish car, but it's not a very expensive car either. 165,000 Rand for the manual gets you 15-inch wheels. It gets you aircon with temperature control in the front and a separate temperature control in the back. What it doesn't have is leather seats and cruise control, the kind of gadgetry that someone who's buying this kind of vehicle in this price class doesn't want to have to pay the extra money for.
As anyone familiar with speccing a premium German car will tell you, these options soon add up. And in this competitive segment, a price tag inflated by the cost of extravagant options is the last thing you want.
What it does have is the things that you do want, like a spine at the end of the trip. It's really comfortable inside. The suspension's not bad at all. It's not awful to drive either. The handling in corners and around bends and office blocks is actually pretty good. You're not fighting with the gears, and the power ratio, the power distribution across revolutions is very good for a car that only peaks at 6,000 revs per minute. You know, it lives between 2,500 and 3,500 RPM, and that's probably why it only uses 6.3 litres per 100 kilometre tested by some obscure men in coats in Japan, but probably wouldn't be that much more here. It's got other things that you need for this purpose as well. It's spacious on the inside. I mean, I'm not the biggest person, but I'm very comfortable, and this steering wheel goes up and down and forwards and backwards, and there's cup holders everywhere. It's got everything that is important and should be important to someone only parting with 165,000 Rand.
Pricing and standard features aside, there's another aspect that's likely to tip the scales in the Almera's favour.
Of course, the biggest feature of the entire Almera is something which Almera buyers care a lot about, and that's the boot size, of which you get 490 litres. Unfortunately, what you don't get is soft touch materials, noise insulation and build quality.
To be fair, you can't reasonably expect Rolls-Royce levels of fit and finish from a car in this price bracket. There were a few other niggling issues though. One of these is the complete lack of oddment storage spaces around the gear lever and handbrake.
It also has an awful turning circle. So I genuinely thought that this was going to be awful. And I was genuinely surprised that it's actually a really nice car to live with. And 500,000 people around the world have already bought it and seem to agree. And while I still don't really understand the styling, I do understand the product, and that sometimes the right car isn't the best car, and a good car for good money isn't always necessarily awful.